Hi guys, hey, Dean Wenzel here with Wenzel Paintings, and today I want to show you how to paint a simple mountain using oil colors. I live in the Pacific Northwest, and what I'm going to show you is the way the mountain looks like from where I'm at, Mount Rainier. Beautiful mountain. And depending on where you're at, if you're up in Seattle, the mountain looks quite different than it does where I'm at, which is down in DuPont, halfway between Olympia and Tacoma. It looks a lot different here. Looks a lot different if you were further south in Washington. So what you're going to see is the way it looks like from where I live. Okay? Let me set up the palette or the canvas and we'll get going. And we'll start right here. Okay, I've got a few colors at the bottom of my canvas. And by the way, I'm using some white medium to help the paint flow. I use Bob Ross products almost exclusively, and look for that link down at the bottom of my video to get that. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use a palette knife. Again, that's a Bob Ross palette knife. Bob Ross is one of my mentors. I'm sure he may be one to many of you as well. The first thing I want to start out with, though, is a paintbrush, and I'm going to put a little bit of white medium on here. That's that jar that I just showed you. And the reason I use this is just so that the paint will flow a little bit more. And I'm not using a canvas today. I'm just using a piece of paper just to do a quick demo of what a mountain would look like. And this again is just so that the paint will flow easier, so that I don't have to fight against the dry surface of the paper. And of course I use this on all my paintings. It's called a wet on wet technique, and you don't need a ton, but paper tends to absorb more than canvas, so I'm adding a little bit more than I usually do just to get us started here. So as I wash the brush, the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to pick up our palette knife and we're going to start using some of the black on here. And so I'm just going to take some paint off of the palette there, and I just have a little bit of paint on the edge of my knife. And again, the way the mountain looks from where I'm at down here in the southern Puget Sound area is that the mountain kind of has 3 points to it, and so it sort of looks a little bit like that. Okay, now what I'm going to do from there is I'm going to use my brush, and I'm just going to pull that paint. So I'm going to take it from this tip here, and I'm going to pull it down. I'm going to take it from this tip here, I'm going to pull it down, and then I'm simply going to just sort of using some kind of X strokes, I'm just going to sort of blend that out a little bit. And that's essentially how my mountain will start out. Now, I know that looks a little bit rough and I'm a little bit sloppy up top, but I think for the purpose of a demo, that'll work out okay. So that's the basic shape of the mountain. I've just used some dark color, and then I smooth it out with my brush. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some white. I'm going to pretend that the light is coming from the right. And usually, almost always, there's snow up on that mountain. And so I'm going to use some white to put some snow or highlights on this mountain. And so I'm going to start at the top, and I'm using my knife sort of at an angle, not straight down, not sideways, but sort of at an angle. Notice that the edge of this knife sort of matches the angle of that mountain. And I'm going to begin to, starting at the very tip top of the mountain, I'm going to come down, and I'm going to kind of go pretty lightly where that paint will break, and I'm going to come down, and I'm going to come down, and just allow that to sort of come right off of the knife. And it creates all those little broken areas on the surface of the canvas, or in this case the piece of paper. I'm going to do the same thing on this next peak of the mountain, maybe not quite as much, but just sort of move my knife around a little bit, and you can see that it'll begin to make some pretty realistic looking snow on that mountain. And I'm going to take it over onto the last peak, and maybe I'll just put a little bit of a snow showing on that. Just quick demo on that. Now there's some I could leave it like that, but I want to add some color to it. I have this black, and what I really want to do is maybe create a bit of a more realistic look to it. So when I'm going to take some of this white, but this time I'm going to add a little bit of blue to that white, and we'll call that our shadow color for this mountain. And so I'll mix some of that up. I hope you can see that on there. Maybe you can't. Let me pull this down just a tad bit so that you can see that I'm mixing that paint. Yeah, let me pull that up just a bit there. Okay, I got this sort of a marbly looking color blue here. This time I'm going to use the smaller portion of my knife. I'm going to come in and scrape a little color, and I'm going to just come in here, and I'm going to, as you saw me pulling my knife this way earlier, I'm going to begin to pull my knife this way for the shadows. And so I'm just going to pull in anywhere where there's sort of a white showing up against the black. I'm going to just bring in some of this color to create some shadow, especially in here along these peaks. And what that does is it starts creating sort of this illusion of little peaks and valleys in the mountain, and it really makes it pop quite a bit. And so again, I'm going to pull this down, and as I get to the wider areas where I don't have to be so careful, I can use the wider portion of my knife so that I can then cover more area there. But you kind of get the idea that now we have a pretty realistic look of a mountain. And you can do some things here like let me maybe take some, get more white up in that area there, steal some white from there, and miss that little area up there. But then that's pretty much the way we do a mountain. And you know, the bottom of that can be adjusted a little bit to just to tap your brush up into that area. I'm using my brush kind of at an angle here. When I get over here, I'll do the same. But I do tap, tap, tap. And what that does is it sort of softens that bottom up a bit. And I can just pull this up. And what you end up with is a pretty decent looking mountain. Got a little bit of extra something going on up there we don't need, but you get the idea. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you click on the like button if you did, and give that a try. It's pretty simple. Just practice, and add your comments to my video if you like it. If you don't like it, if you have some tips and tricks, throw those comments at me. Subscribe to my channel, and let's keep this going. Thanks.